Welcome back to Polar Press Presents. I'm DW Sauer, and today we're going to look at BookTube or Write With Me. I'm not for sure what I'm going to call this segment yet because overall I just decided to go ahead and talk about my books. So here's up The Last Christmas and Return to Christmas Town. So what I thought I'd do with this segment is really just talk about why this guy who, for the most part, wears flannel, beardy, metalhead guy decided to write Christmas stories and this wholesome Christmas style stories that kind of are made for really with Hallmark in mind. And honestly, it really goes back to just my childhood. If you followed along with this channel by any playlist and things like that, particularly the metal stuff, like I have mentioned how I grew up in a very religious Southern Baptist home. And the thing of it is, though, is Christmas was big for us. And so, of course, we got the religious aspect, but we also got the celebration aspect as well. It was just a big thing with our family. My grandmother was really huge into it. I mean, she had like a 6-foot animatronic Santa Claus that came out, hundreds of decorations. My mother's the same way. I love it, and it's not about the whole gift thing. I mean, of course, when I was a kid, yeah, I wanted gifts, but now I just enjoy the atmosphere and mood that Christmas can bring. But it was really big, and like I remember one of the biggest things was the fact that on Thanksgiving, my dad and I would be putting up the decorations, be upside, putting up the lights and everything, tossing football around. It was just a good time, and I highly enjoyed it, and I still enjoy Christmas time. It's not something I actually had watched a Metalhead do a video. It was a very, very well done. It was very funny about how as soon as he heard Christmas music, stepped out of his house, heard Christmas music, and then ran back upstairs, got underneath the covers, and blasted some metal. Made me laugh. But overall, I'm not like that. I do enjoy Christmas time. And how the last Christmas started. The reason why I did this to begin with, I was working, and if you follow me, I'm an educator as well. I work in public education. I was in a classroom for almost or a little over a decade. I'd have to go back and look at all of it up just to see the timeline. And unfortunately, you may know that in America, public teachers are not really paid well for the most part, depending on where you're at. But still, it can be tough. And I needed to work a second job. And so I had started at one place and I was working there. Ended up being told about a grocery store, and I'll leave these names out because I'm not going to talk bad because I had good experiences at all three side jobs I worked at. I'm just going to leave them out. But I worked at the grocery store. Now, the grocery store paid very well, and especially considered my first part-time job. First part-time job, I think it was like $8.25 or something like that. And then I went to the grocery store, and I think I started out at like 14 or 15 an hour, something like that. So it was a substantial jump, especially for part-time work. So I was able to go there. I did enjoy it, but it was also it was demanding, I mean, at the end of a work day, when I was going through a full classroom day, then going and working an extra 6 to 7 hours, depending on the schedule, it was tough. And I was tired at the end of the day. I mean, I was worn out. There were some days, I left my house at 5:30 in the morning, and then I didn't get home until 10:30, depending on that last truck, and I was wearing out. So I needed to still work, but yet I was tired. I was completely worn out because by the end of working at the grocery store, I mean, I'm a sweater. I sweat like crazy, and so like after unloading the truck and everything, for the most part, I got a soaked T-shirt just from sweating. But it was a good job. I actually did like going there, and if it wasn't for the way things happened between health and the new position, I would probably have still been working there far longer than what I ended up doing. But getting back to it, I ended up going into Hallmark one day for a gift, and one of the associates there was like, yeah, we need some help. You get a great employee discount. And I was like, well, all right, I like discounts. And so I applied and got the job. So at that point, and I want to say it was like 2017, when I started that, I was working as a teacher, then working at the grocery store and working at Hallmark. Got a job there, which I ended up saying the the name of the store. But I enjoyed working at a Hallmark. I still can't believe I keep saying that, but okay, the 3rd job was at Hallmark. So, I was working there, and it was good, I mean, there were the worst weeks as far as hours worked. I remember there were 2 weeks that I worked about 84 hours in a week, just because the schedules were busy, needing the holidays at the grocery store and needed some extra hours there as far as to help them out, so I pulled some extra hours, but it was a lot of work. It was a lot during that time span. But every part-time job helped me write. It helped me actually take a vacation. And so the part-time jobs were critical. I needed them to do anything extra because honestly, I had looked this up and I had talked about it with an associate I worked with at the grocery store. And we did the math. And I could work full time at that grocery store and make more than what I was making at a classroom teacher, not just because of pay, but also because of like health insurance was cheaper through them too. It was the exact same company as well, exact same package. And we looked at those types of things too. Like they basically matched everything that I was getting as far as benefits, but the healthcare was cheaper, of course, because they had a chain. It was a grocery store chain, so they had a lot of employees that pitched into the pot. And in school systems, you just are subject to your school district putting into the pot. I wish, my hope is that the state would be like, hey, everybody that works in public education, works in these public fields, public services, are under the umbrella of the state insurance plan. It would be amazing because that would drive prices down, I believe. But getting off topic. So, yeah, it was at Hallmark. I was still working there because, like I said, I needed that break. Even though I was still working, Hallmark was not strenuous. I think the biggest box I had to pick was like 60 pounds or so, and that was just these long, long boxes of Christmas cards. So it wasn't strenuous for the most part. And I had some really good coworkers there as well. They were just some good people to work with. And the manager at the time, she was amazing. So yeah, it was just a good experience. But they found out I wrote, and they were like, "Well, why don't you do a Christmas story?" And I was like, I don't know if I can pull that off." But we kept talking about it, and I was like, "All right." So I think it was my 2nd year there because I did that for 2 seasons. So my 2nd season there, I was good. I was like, "Okay, yeah, you know what? Let's do this." So I believe it was in 2019 now that we're at. It was either 2018, 2019, but I did spend 2 seasons working all 3 jobs. It was a lot, I'm not gonna lie, but Hallmark was only from, like, October to, um, right there at the end of December, maybe early January. It wasn't a long period of time because going 80 some hours for a lot of those weeks would have been really, really tough. Even going much more than the 70 I was working for the most part. That was tough too. So it was a lot. But they ended up talking like, hey, let's do this wholesome Christmas Hallmark style story. I was like, okay. So ended up getting an idea and I just ran with it and it turned into a fun story. Now, one of the comments that I had about the last Christmas is the fact that like the timing doesn't match up with historical accuracy. But when I wrote The Last Christmas, it was not meant to be taking place in current times, not even really meant, I should say, it wasn't designed to take place in the past. The opening tells you it takes ahead of some time from now. So like the initial story of when she's present as far as, going to tell everybody about her past. Essentially that time frame, I never say, but I'm like, in my mind is like 2050, 2060, something like that. Sometime in the near future, just because I wanted this story to come back to present day. So there were things with Christmas Town that I wanted to see in my brain, see alive, but it wouldn't have been possible to do the exact same things if it was based in the 70s and 80s. And honestly, I also did not want to do the type of research that would make sure that it would be consistent with everything as far as dress, clothing, cost of goods, all that stuff. I really didn't want to do that. I just want to have fun and I wanted to write a story. And I wanted to have this story, and I'm not going to do spoilers, but I wanted this story to take place now with all the technology that we currently have And that's where Christmas Town was going to be built. It's current day, but it's going to be based off of somebody down the road reflecting on their life. So if you're reading this expecting it to be taking place in the 70s or 80s, that's not the case at all. So keep that in mind if you read it, that that was never my intention. So I did The Last Christmas basically because people said, just do a Christmas story. I was like, okay. It was just like, all right, I'll do it. Because I think as an author, you kind of got to be a little bit flexible. And if people are kind of saying, you know what, we need a different perspective, or we just need a good story out there, and you've got the ability, then why not give it a shot? And so I gave it a shot, and I actually loved The Last Christmas. I know there are things that's going to have to be fixed, things that need to change with it because of the next story. And the reason why I say that is because The Return to Christmas Town, I kept getting comments from people about like, it's a novella. It needs to be longer. I need more of Christmas Town. And I'm like, but it wasn't meant to go more. I was kind of like a little bit of pouting type situation because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. But people are wanting more. And so I was like, okay, my brain just wouldn't shut off because it wasn't just one or two people. I had two in particular that were really good advocates of doing another story. And I cannot thank them enough because if they didn't stop asking me about it, then I would have never considered doing this. But those were the two main people. And I'm not going to mention their names this time, I promise, even though I name dropped Hallmark, but I promise I will not mention their names. I just went ahead and my brain wouldn't shut off. And so I started having this idea of what I could do. The problem that people might see with these two stories is kind of the consistency between the storyline, because you got to keep in mind, I never, absolutely never intended to write a second Christmas book. Just was not something I was ever thinking about, but I did because of what people were asking me to do. They wanted more of Christmas Town. So I said, okay, how can I give them more? So really, Return to Christmas Town, it's all about the same family, just some different people involved. I brought in some more characters, but overall, you can read these two stories and independently. There's not really one that for the most part you have to read first, although I definitely would recommend reading it in order, but they're kind of like standalone stories for the most part in the same connection. Now, as I go, I'm going to see, because The Last Christmas was traditionally published, and the publisher has been very good to me. They've published 3 books, but unfortunate events had happened where I had to form my own company. I had to form Polar Press in order to keep Dark Days alive. That's for another video. But last year, the publisher had contacted us saying, hey, if you want to do edits, if you want to do new cover design, go ahead and do it. We'll put everything up in 2024, 2025. And I said, okay, maybe this is a shot, because it came, the email actually came, I wanted to say, right as I was done with The Last Christmas and getting actually ready for publishing. Like I was doing the book formatting and everything. So I'm thinking timing wise, it was like right at the same time. I was like, ooh, this is good, because I've kind of got some inconsistencies that I want to hash out and make sure I get straight. So let me go ahead and make the changes. So the second edition, if I get to put it out, and it's a big if, I don't know if I can or not, the second edition will hopefully make everything more consistent. It's going to be based back in the 70s and 80s, even though I don't mention that time frame, but there's some subtle hints with as far as the cars and things like that it's going to be driving, and as far as prices go. But I try to leave that vague, but yet I make a lot of the technology changes that you would see as far as Christmas Town. So the heart of the story is the same. It's just kind of making adjustments for back in the day. So that way you can read this as this is the flashback truly is the past, and then Return to Christmas Town is truly in the present. But honestly, I'm not disappointed about that either. I am going to see if I can buy my rights back to The Last Christmas and my other traditionally published novellas as well, just because I'm going to put everything I can under the Polar Press umbrella branch publisher, put it there, and hopefully continue at some point. I don't know if anytime soon, putting them out, because honestly, what could happen is if I'm able to get my rights back to the book, then The Last Christmas is going to take a lot to put out, and The Untold and Just Friends may be further down the road. And by further down the road, I mean they may not be available for sale for 2 or 3 years, because this process is not cheap. And I've got some more videos and some more updates coming out on things like that, but I just kind of wanted this to be more about the Christmas stories. So ultimately, and my apologies if it seems like I'm all over the place, because I'm not gonna lie, I am. I'm all over the place. I don't like scripting things. When I have scripted things, I completely screw up. I mean, it is terrible. I just fumble all over myself. I don't do well at all. So these two stories are pretty much 100% viewer driven, reader driven, based off of people just urging me to do something. I will say these books aren't as big as far as, they're not bestsellers. They're not anything close to that means. And at this point, I'm I'm more in debt from these books than I am making any type of breaking even point. And honestly, if I decide to, or if I'm able to get The Last Christmas back, re-edit that, book cover, book formatting, I'm going to be in major debt from this book, and I'm not for sure if it's ever going to pay out. So it's kind of scary for me at this point because of the fact I've had taken so many financial blows with publishing, but I absolutely love these two stories. I think they're just feel good stories, like for when you're having a bad day type deal. And like I said, Christmas was such a huge part of my childhood as far as family time together, and just those memories of putting up the ornaments with my dad. Well, I'm hoping, knock on wood, always stay with me, just because it was just fun. It was just a good time. And of course, put up the decorations with my mom and siblings. But um, I just remember, going outside, hanging up the lights on the gutters, but in between getting up and moving the ladder, we throw the ball around, and so it was good times. And so, yeah, I'm a metalhead who loves Christmas, who loves pretty much every type of Christmas style song. There's a couple of them, especially some newer ones. I'm like, eh. But also a fun fact for you, and I'm going to release this on a short as well. My first album that I ever received was Burl Ives. It was a tape my grandmother gave me. She even gave me an old player to play it on because I didn't have a tape player at that time. And yes, I'm dating myself, but I'm getting older, and you can see my sanctification process has begun. But I, I love Christmas. I love the music. I enjoy it, and I'm okay with that. I'm all right with admitting it, and I'm okay, and I'm not ashamed that I've written Christmas stories by any means. And so, want to kind of give everybody an idea of where The Last Christmas came from, which was, it's pretty simple. I just got encouraged to do it. And if it wasn't for my coworkers at Hallmark, it would have never had come out. And then if it wasn't for some readers encouraging me to, let's do more about Christmastown. Like we need more. I would have never done the Return to Christmastown. So this has been a phenomenal journey, and I'm glad people are doing it, enjoying it, I should say, and reading it. And I'm thrilled of the response, especially this Christmas. I've had some really good responses from this Christmas, and hopefully here soon. And I don't know. Honestly, I will admit and be upfront, because I've always tried to be transparent with this process. This might be the last Christmas for The Last Christmas for a little bit. It may not be available in 2026. I don't know yet. I'm going to do everything I can, but the problem is that it takes a lot to put something out this on your own. And so I'm going to do all I can, but the timing might not be great for some. But trust me when I say 100% of the profits I get from all 7 books, it's not going to anything fancy. It's not going to support a vacation. It's not going to support new equipment. Everything that I buy, I'm having to finance. Even if it's a purchase for the business, it's still I'm having to pay for it because I'm not seeing the profits balancing out yet. And I'm working on it. I'm doing all I can to finance this and to get it off the ground so that I can bring more works out there. And eventually, yeah, I would absolutely love to sign authors and become a good publisher of just more than just me. But right now, it's a struggle. It's very difficult. But your support for any of my books is going a long way. It's going to help finance all of it. I'm not trying to live a lavish lifestyle based off of these books. I'm just trying to make sure I can at least break even or make enough to where I can put out another book. Ideally, that's the goal, is to keep doing this, because doing this on your own is extremely difficult. It's not cheap. And so if you know any indie author, whether you buy an ebook or a print book, I would just recommend doing that. It goes a long way to helping them out. And unfortunately, I will go in later. It's free, really free. How much Uncle Sam, especially since I'm in America, takes out the taxes and stuff like that. I will go over the details of how tough publishing can be for indie authors and small presses getting started. But just know that I appreciate everybody who has stopped by and who has read a book and reviewed and shared, etc. All of it means a lot to me, and I greatly appreciate it. And I couldn't do this if it wasn't for you. So I've taken up a lot of your time. Hopefully this all made sense. But if you're new here and you enjoyed this and you're looking forward to more tips, please like and subscribe and stick around, because I'm going to try to make 2025 more of a regular writing booktube thing. I don't know what to call it yet. I previously had Write With Me, so maybe I'll stick with that. Maybe I'll just go with booktube, but we'll see. But thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Greatly appreciate everything y'all have done for me. Take care.